It's taken more than 40 years, 2 coronial inquests, numerous police investigations, a 10-week trial, an extraordinary example of media investigation and public interest. But finally, in the case of Lynne Dawson, the young mother of 2 who disappeared in 1982, there has been justice. Her then husband, Chris Dawson, has been found guilty today of her murder. Chris Dawson, a school teacher who worked and lived on Sydney's northern beaches, had begun an affair with his 16-year-old student. She'd moved into the family home as a babysitter. Lynne Dawson knew about the affair and was obviously troubled by it. And the judge today, Ian Harrison, ruled that Chris Dawson killed his wife so he was free to continue his life with his young student girlfriend, whom he later married. There was no body found, no weapon. There was no forensic evidence. This case is extraordinary. Until now, it might have looked like the perfect crime. But in his lengthy judgment, read out over 5 hours today, Judge Harrison meticulously went through all the evidence, discounting some, highlighting other parts, explaining where it was clear that Dawson had lied, and forensically detailing a series of events that could only be explained by Chris Dawson constructing the opportunity to murder his wife and dispose of her body. And so a devoted 33-year-old mother disappeared. For years, police accepted she'd run away without taking clothes, money, jewellery, personal items, or without saying goodbye to her 2 young daughters. But today, an explanation. 40 years and 7 months later, a verdict. Lynne Dawson was killed by her husband, Chris.
I'm satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that the only rational inference that the circumstances enable me to draw is that Lynette Dawson died on about 8 January 1982 as the result of a conscious and voluntary act committed by Mr Dawson with the intention of causing her death. Christopher Michael Dawson, on the charge that on or about 8 January 1982 at Bayview or elsewhere in the state of New South Wales, you did murder Lynette Dawson. I find you guilty.
One aspect of this case has been the way media reporting has driven interest, raised new evidence and helped to foster renewed police interest. Award-winning investigative journalist with the Australian newspaper Hedley Thomas began a podcast on the case called The Teacher's Pet in May 2018.
According to 2 coroners, he has done this. He's in this awful no man's land, this legal limbo. He deserves, I believe, an opportunity to have it, to prove that he is innocent, or alternatively, to be convicted. I suspect that the DPP will weigh all these things over coming weeks, and we might see some action. But this case has disappointed many people.
We have now seen that action. That coverage and intense forensic reporting continued as the former family home of Sydney's northern beaches was searched and it was excavated to no avail. And then Chris Dawson was charged in December 2018. Hedley Thomas's reporting and investigations continued right up to and throughout the trial. And he was at the court for today's verdict.
Her story struck me as so unjust, so unfair at the time. And, I think it's true. I did become obsessive about it. I think people who do understand the evidence in this case have the same feeling because it is so immediately unfair. And let's remember, it's taken 40 years for this to happen. Chris Dawson should have been charged 40 years ago. He has had 40 years of his life that he has been able to enjoy without any accountability for what's happened. That's disgraceful, and that's on the system as it existed in the early 1980s.
This is an extraordinary case on so many different levels. An unspeakable tragedy for Lynne Dawson, her daughters and her family and friends. But now a victory, at least, in that justice has been served.
I'm a little bit emotional. After 40 years, my sister's been vindicated. So we'll start with a few words. This verdict is for Lynne. Today her name has been cleared. She loved her family and never left them of her own accord. Instead, her trust was betrayed by a man she loved. The court has found what we have believed to be true for so many years. Chris Dawson took the life of our beloved Lynn back in 1982. On behalf of our family, our heartfelt thanks to all who came forward to speak the truth on Lynn's behalf, to give her a voice 40 years after she lost her own.
Sure, we've had time to really process it yet. I think we're all in a bit of shock. It was really hard right to the very end to even know which way it was going to go. So we're still processing at this stage, but I think justice may have been done.
Look, I'll have plenty more on this tonight. I think we all feel a knot in our stomachs when we think of the way this young mother was eliminated, her life snuffed out in such a brutally callous way by a man obsessed with his teenage girlfriend, stolen from her two young daughters. Apart from all that, and as we heard from her brother there, apart from the damage to the family, the official record until today grossly defamed Lynne Dawson as a mother who had left her children, something the court found was unthinkable and did not happen, and something her family and friends know could not have happened. But I've got to say, I feel a bit of gratitude today as well. Grateful for my good friend Hedley Thomas for the way he pursued this case with vigour and care and attention to detail, and also to the police investigators, the prosecutors, and Justice Harrison, who's been very precise in his judgment, obviously aware of the potential for an appeal, but setting out so clearly that despite the lack of a body, the lack of any physical evidence, the total reliance on circumstantial evidence, he has been able to establish what happened, what is the only available interpretation of what transpired based on the known facts and the exposed lies. Lynne Dawson, rest in peace.